You know that feeling when you wake up to a perfect morning, birds chirping, coffee brewing, the world just humming along only to have it shattered by the sound of someone hammering on your land? That's how it started for me. A quiet spring day in 2023, when I found out the Pinewood Estates HOA had the nerve to build a bridge right across my property. No permission, no heads up, just pure arrogance. My name's Jack Ramsey, and this is the story of how I turned their trespassing into an $850,000 lesson they'll never forget. I'd been living on my 25 acres by Willow Lake for a decade, a little slice of heaven in rural Washington. Think towering pines, a private dock, and a view so peaceful it could hush a screaming toddler. I'm not the guy who stirs up trouble. I keep to myself, fish on weekends, maybe crack a beer with my buddy Tom when he swings by. Across the lake, Pinewood Estates popped up a couple of years back, a gated community for folks who iron their khakis and argue over mailbox colors. Their HOA, led by this woman named Linda Hargrove, acted like they owned the whole damn county. As long as they stayed on their side of the water, I didn't care. But that morning, I heard a thud, not a woodpecker, but the kind of hammering that screams someone's building something big. I grabbed my boots, trudged through the woods, and there it was, a half-finished wooden bridge stretching from their side of the lake right onto my shoreline, two massive pilings driven into my dirt like they were staking a claim. I stood there, jaw tight, thinking, who the hell do these people think they are? I didn't storm over yelling, "That's not me." I went back to the house, pulled out my property deed, and checked the survey map from when I bought the place. Clear as day, those pilings were 15 feet inside my boundary. I snapped photos, logged GPS coordinates, and fired off a certified letter to Linda Hargrove, polite but firm. You're building on my land. Stop now, remove the bridge, or we've got a problem. I figured they'd back off, maybe apologize. Instead, 5 days later, I'm sipping coffee when I spot a banner across the lake. Willow Crossing grand opening, April 20th. They weren't just ignoring Methy, were throwing a party for it. I watched from my side, hidden in the trees, as Linda cut a ribbon, kids ate cupcakes, and some local reporters snapped photos like this was the damn Golden Gate. Not one mention of me, the guy whose land they were standing on. That's when I knew this wasn't a mistake. It was a power grab, and Linda thought I'd just roll over. I don't do revenge, but I believe in consequences. I drove to the county seat and met with a surveyor named Carl, a grizzled guy who probably dreams in topographic lines. Showed him my deed, the photos, everything. He spent a day with his GPS gear and a drone, mapping every inch of my land. When he handed me the report, he pointed to the key line. Pilings are 15 feet inside your property, Jack. No gray area here. That was my ammo. But I didn't just want the bridge gone, I wanted to make sure they'd never try this again. So I called my old friend Nate, an architect who designs fancy cabins for tech millionaires. Over beers, I laid out my plan. Turn the land around the bridge into a luxury retreat, stone patio, fire pit, a few rental cabins, the works. Not only would it lock down my property, but it'd make money, too. Nate grinned like a kid with a new Lego set. Let's make it bulletproof, he said. While Nate sketched, I filed for permits, crossed every T, dotted every shoreline regs, erosion plans, even hired a biologist to prove my build wouldn't hurt the local frogs. By the time the county greenlit my project, I had contractors ready to roll. On a crisp Monday, my crew showed up with bulldozers, pouring gravel and digging trenches while Pinewood folks strolled their precious bridge, sipping lattes, oblivious. To drive the point home, I had my guys build 2 stone walls, one at each end of the bridge where it hit my land, classy, not too tall, with wrought iron signs. Private property, resort guests only. No locks, no barbed wire, just a clear line in the sand. The looks on their faces? Priceless. Of course, Linda didn't take it lying down. That evening, some guy in a Pinewood HOA polo sunglasses perched on his head like a wannabe cop knocked on my door. Mr. Ramsey, I'm here for President Hargrove. She wants to discuss the, obstruction. I cut him off, leaning in just enough. You're on my land, buddy. Get out. He scurried off, muttering about community spirit. Over the next week, they tried every thingamales about easement rights, certified letters claiming the bridge was public infrastructure, even a trio of board members showing up to inspect my site. My foreman, Big Dan, all 6 feet 5 inches of him, met them with a grin and a hammer in hand. Careful, folks, lots of loose nails around here. They didn't come back. Linda's real meltdown came when she realized I wasn't budging. One morning, I found her marching up my driveway, clipboard in hand, two lackeys trailing behind, her heels sinking into the gravel. "Jack Ramsey," she barked, like I was a dog she could scold. "This bridge is vital for our residents' access to trails. You're obstructing community welfare." I crossed my arms, calm as a lake at dawn. "You built it on my land, Linda. No permit, no permission. You're the one obstructing." She waved her clipboard, voice shrill. "We assumed the shoreline was public." I pointed to the stone wall. "You assumed wrong." Her face went red, and she spat. "This isn't neighborly." I stepped closer, voice low. "I'm not your neighbor, Linda. I'm your problem." That's when I called my lawyer, Sarah Klein, a shark in a blazer who loves nothing more than shredding bad contracts. We sent a cease and desist letter, packed with Carl's survey, drone footage, and Washington property law citations. When Linda kept pushing, suing me for obstructing community access, Sarah laughed. "They're begging for a counterclaim, Jack." So we hit back, suing Pinewood HOA for trespass, illegal construction, and environmental damage, $2 million in damages. Sarah dug deeper, and that's when it got juicy. Discovery turned up emails where Linda bragged, "No one's used that land in years. We don't need permits." Worse, she'd funneled $100,000 of HOA dues through her brother-in-law's consulting firm to pay the contractor. No member vote, no paper trail, just pure fraud. Sarah sent that to the county prosecutor, and suddenly Linda wasn't just fighting me. She was fighting a criminal probe. My retreat, now called Willow Haven, was taking shape. Cabins booked out for months, a spa area with a cedar sauna, even a wedding planner begging to rent the patio. Across the lake, Pinewood was imploding. Residents turned on Linda, demanding her resignation after learning their dues funded her scam. One guy, a retired teacher named Ed, slipped a note in my mailbox. "Jack, we had no idea. Sorry for the mess." Linda tried one last stunt, calling the sheriff to claim I was endangering public safety. The deputies showed up, took one look at my deed, and left, one of them muttering, "Lady's got some nerve." The trial was a bloodbath. Sarah laid out our case like a prosecutor in a mob flick, surveys, photos, Linda's emails damning her. Linda took the stand, stammering about verbal agreements I never made, then crumbled when Sarah showed the fake plat map she'd doctored. The jury took 2 hours to award me $850,000, ordered the bridge torn down, and slapped Pinewood with a public apology mandate. Linda, arrested days later for fraud and forgery, facing 7 years in prison. Pinewood HOA collapsed, reformed as a toothless co-op with no power. I watched the bridge come down from my dock, sipping whiskey as the last beam hit the truck bed. Willow Haven's now a regional gym, 6-month waitlist, magazine spreads, the works. That old bridge site, just wildflowers and a sign. Private property, no trespassing. I kept it up, not out of spite, but as a reminder, don't build on someone else's land, especially not mine. Here's the thing, though part of me wonders if Linda believed she was doing good for her people, or if it was just ego, plain and simple. What do you think? Was I too hard on them, or did they get what was coming? Drop a comment. Share your take. Have you ever dealt with an HOA nightmare, or a neighbor who crossed a line? Let's talk about it. Hit that subscribe button if you want more stories like this, because trust me, I've got plenty.